A cup of coffee sits on a mahogany desk, 50 stories above the street. It's cold now.
A light skin of dust has already begun to settle on its surface.
Out the window, the city is a masterpiece of glass and steel, an intricate network of ambition, movement, and energy. But the energy has run out.
The clock on the wall ticks once, then stops. Down in the belly of the building, a final circuit breaker trips, and the low hum that defines modern life, the sound of air conditioners, lighting, and servers, simply vanishes. In the sudden silence, a new reality begins. We are confronted with a question we rarely stop to ask. How long would it take for the world to forget we were ever here? To most of us, a city feels like a permanent fixture of the landscape. But a city is not a passive object. It is a living, breathing machine that requires constant energy and maintenance to stay habitable. Within the first 48 hours of our disappearance, that machine begins to break down. Below the streets of metropolises like New York and London, millions of gallons of groundwater are constantly pushing against the subway tunnels. We usually don't notice it because thousands of electric pumps work tirelessly to keep the dry ground dry. Without engineers to monitor the grids or fuel to keep the backup generators turning, those water follows the path of least resistance. It seeps through the cracks, pooling on the tracks, and rising inch by inch. Within 2 days, the subterranean heart of the city is fully submerged. Above ground, the transition is just as swift. Without the artificial climate control of our buildings, the refined hum of civilization gives way to the raw physics of a world without us. But as the infrastructure fails, a deeper, more immediate tragedy unfolds. Inside our homes and behind the fences of our farms, a domestic crisis begins. Millions of pets and livestock, creatures that have relied on us for food and water for millennia, suddenly find themselves trapped. For the dogs locked in suburban kitchens and the cattle confined to industrial pens, the silence is a death sentence. Without our intervention, hunger and thirst take their toll. Only those who can escape into the urban wild will have a chance to survive, beginning a desperate migration into a world that no longer knows their names. With the humans gone, the wild doesn't wait for permission to return. It begins with what biologists call succession. First come the pioneers. Wind-blown seeds land in the accumulated dust of rooftop gutters and the hairline fractures in the asphalt. The tree of heaven, a species often dismissed as a common weed, reveals its true nature as a biological drill. Its roots are capable of finding the tiniest fissures in a highway, expanding with enough force to shatter thick layers of pavement. As the asphalt breaks apart, it creates a new forest floor. Grasses give way to shrubs, and shrubs to saplings. Roads that once carried thousands of commuters become impassable thickets. Within 50 years, what was once a downtown shopping district becomes a thriving, green scrubland. High above this reclaiming forest, our most distant technology begins its final descent. Without the minor orbital corrections provided by ground control, thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit lose their battle with atmospheric drag. They streak across the night sky, silent, fiery markers of an era that is rapidly being overgrown by the green tide below. We build our modern world with steel-reinforced concrete, a material designed for incredible strength and efficiency. But this strength comes with a hidden shelf life. Steel has a natural chemical urge to return to its original state, iron oxide, or rust. In our absence, water and oxygen penetrate the microscopic pores of the concrete, reaching the steel rebar hidden inside. As that steel reacts with oxygen, a process known as oxidation, it begins to expand. Rusting rebar can grow to 7 times its original volume. Engineers call this spalling, but you can think of it as an internal cancer. The expanding metal creates immense internal pressure, literally shattering the concrete from the inside out. Bridges that we thought would last forever begin to snap. Skyscrapers, weakened by this internal rot, can no longer support their own massive weight. Within 3 centuries, even our proudest towers will collapse, becoming mid-sized hills of rubble. It is a striking irony of engineering. The Roman Pantheon, built with volcanic ash and no steel reinforcement, has stood for 2,000 years. Our modern glass towers, built for maximum height and weight capacity, will likely be dust before the Pantheon loses its roof. In the timeline of the Earth, modern efficiency has come at the cost of geological longevity. In the middle distance of our absence, we leave behind 2 very different ghosts. One is terrifyingly durable, the other is shockingly fragile. Everything we have ever uploaded, every digital photograph, every line of code, and every bit of human history stored on a server is currently entering what historians call the digital dark age. Our data is not written in stone. It is stored as magnetic charges or reflective pits on plastic. Without regular maintenance or electricity to refresh the bits, these storage mediums degrade rapidly. Within just 50 years, the entire digital record of the 21st century will simply vanish into magnetic noise. Our digital glory is as fleeting as a breath on glass. Meanwhile, our nuclear legacy is just beginning its journey. Deep in steel-lined vaults, radioactive isotopes like plutonium-239 will remain hazardous for 24,100 years. Long after our languages have been forgotten and our cities have been ground into sand, these hotspots will remain. Invisible, silent monuments to the atomic age, ticking away on a clock that operates on a scale humans were never meant to see. 1,000,000 years from now, a new geologist, perhaps not a human one, will look at a cliffside and see a distinct ribbon of color in the rock strata. This is the Anthropocene layer. It won't be made of recognizable buildings. Instead, they will find technofossils. We often think of plastic as an indestructible material that will last forever, but the reality is more complex. While the chemical bonds of plastic are incredibly stable, the objects themselves are fragile. Sunlight and UV radiation break down plastic bottles and bags into trillions of microplastics within a few centuries. These tiny particles eventually fuse with sand and volcanic rock to form plastiglomerates, new synthetic rocks that will mark our presence in the Earth's crust. They will also find a strange biological anomaly. If they analyze the fossilized remains of the planet's animal biomass, they will find that for a brief moment in time, the most common bird on Earth was the domestic chicken. Through a process called silicate weathering, The Earth reacts atmospheric carbon dioxide with rocks, slowly scrubbing our excess emissions from the sky. It takes over 100,000 years, but eventually, the planet restores its own atmospheric balance. Billions of their bones, processed and discarded by our global food systems, will form a literal chicken bone layer in the fossil record. As the millennia roll by, the planet also begins to breathe out our final chemical legacy. We are no longer just inhabitants of the Earth. We have become a permanent chemical part of its slow-motion recycling machine. The Earth is a restless, restorative system. It takes our steel and turns it back into ore. It takes our carbon and breathes it back into the forest. It takes our grandest designs and folds them into the rock. In the end, we see that the planet doesn't need saving. Life is resilient, adaptable, and fundamentally indifferent to our presence or our absence. We are not the end of the world. We are a fascinating, noisy, and briefly spectacular chapter in its long history. Think back to that cold cup of coffee on the mahogany desk. In the grand timeline of the Earth, the entire span of human civilization lasted barely longer than it took for that coffee to lose its heat. We were a flash of light, a pulse of energy, and a layer of plastic and bone. The forest has returned, the air is clear, and the silent nuclear clocks are finally ticking toward their end. The Earth has moved on. But one question remains for the deep future. When the next intelligent species rises and finds the strange synthetic rocks we left behind, what will they imagine we were like?